Good morning, as long as I have breath. Just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to life. Though with pain I made my way, still with hope I meet each day. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to life. Just as long as vision lasts, I must answer yes to truth. In my dream and in my dark, always that elusive spark. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to truth. Just as long as my heart beats, I must answer yes to love. Disappointment pierced me through, still I kept on loving you. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to love.
Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane, where our mission is to join together to create a nourishing, liberal religious home and to champion justice, diversity, and environmental stewardship in our wider world. Or, as we say in short, to create community, find meaning, and work for justice. I want to begin, as usual, by welcoming each and every one of you to this space. We welcome all of your uniqueness, all of your unique beliefs, your background, your lifestyle, your experiences, your differences, all the things that churches aren't exactly known for welcoming, we welcome here. So welcome to one and all. We're so glad to have you this morning, and this includes those of you who are in the room with us, as well as the many of you who are streaming with us. And I think we have some folks on Zoom probably with us too, yeah? We'll get to you guys in just a minute, but first I wanted to talk about a couple of important issues at the start of our service. I think many of you have heard, some maybe not yet, that church member Jacob Johns was shot on Thursday during what was supposed to be a peaceful demonstration in Albuquerque, New Mexico, after a young man wearing a MAGA hat pulled a gun and fired. Jacob's injuries put him in critical condition. He's had a couple of surgeries already, another one probably to be scheduled, and he remains at the University of New Mexico Hospital where he's being treated. I was very fortunate this morning. I reached out to Jacob's mother, and she was in the room with Jacob and sent me a picture per his request of Jacob in his hospital bed, looking miserable with the peace sign. So his soul is definitely there, and it was really, really great to see him, a relief to see him awake and alert and his eyes sparkling, but he's still not out of the woods. He has at least another surgery. He's battling a fever. He's in a lot of pain. So there's a lot going on there that we need to continue to be concerned about. Keep him in our thoughts and our prayers and all the ways that we love somebody who we're concerned about. So we are going to have just a heads up, we are going to have a special collection today at both services. On behalf of Jacob. Obviously, he's going to have tremendous medical expenses. I know that his family has already put up a GoFundMe page, which has been incredibly successful so far. But we're going to do something here from the church too, so it can get directly to him. So we'll be doing that in our in our special collection today, which you should have a special collection envelope in your order of service. If you want to contribute, please put your donation in that envelope. No need to seal it. And if you are streaming or Zooming with us, you'd be welcome, of course, to go online on our church website and just let us know that your gift is for today's special collection. So thank you all so much for your generosity and your concern and your love for Jacob, a dear part of this church. And I know he's just such an unusual and such a wonderful guy that he has a dear place in the hearts of all of us. I also want to note that our unity candle is lighted here at the front of our service. This is something we do when one of our members has actually passed away during the week. And I'm sorry to inform you that Al Toutant passed away on Tuesday after his long struggle with Alzheimer's. Al and Bernie have been involved as active members in our congregation for over 50 years. I can't remember exactly how long. I want to say 56 years or something like that. And that whole family is just so sweet. And Al was so incredibly sweet. And even as he was still able to come, even after Alzheimer's had really had an impact on his mind, that gentleness and kindness would always show. He'd come up after the service, big smile on his face. He'd shake my hand. He said, "Todd, it's just so wonderful to have you here. You do such a great job for us. Thank you so much." You know, just that loving personality continued to come out right to the end. And I know there's some relief that he's no longer suffering. Al didn't want to go on that way. But it also is now a period for his family to truly begin grieving his loss. So our thoughts go out to him and Bernie, of course, and then to their kids, Mike and Marie and Kathy, and their spouses, Jean, Jim, and Matt, and of course all of their grandchildren. I think they have half a dozen grandchildren. So we're thinking of all of them this morning, and we'll keep this light before us throughout our service as a symbol of Al's light in our lives and in our world. So that's a lot to take in. So let's take just a moment of silence, and then I'll continue with some other announcements. Thank you. I wanted to let you know that even though the Unitarian Universalist Association has ended its partner church program or partner church office, congregations like ours remain connected to our partner churches, including this congregation connected to our partner church in Felshoracos, Romania. They might not want me to say Romania, but Transylvania. But we've been sponsoring university students there every year, and we have 3 new names that have been given to us for this fall. So if you're interested in being a sponsor for a university student from our partner church village, please let Julie Jose know. And then also we're seeking submissions for our community auction. The deadline for your submissions or donations is October 11th. This is a time in our church each year, a significant fundraiser for us, and fundraiser because we donate things, that just so many different ideas. Maybe someone wants to donate a weekend at their cabin or a meal in their home. This year, I think I'm going to donate a couple of classes on using AI to make videos. So that's kind of a new skill, and I think a lot of folks would like that. So, incidentally, next Saturday, and I'll get something out in the sun on this in an email too. Next Saturday, actually I initially said 10 a.m., but it'll be 10:30 here at the church. I'm going to do an informal, sort of impromptu class on artificial intelligence as far as using ChatGPT and some other technologies if you do want to put together video. So if you want to come, 10:30 in the morning, bring your laptop if you have one, and we'll actually have you working on a project so that you can kind of see how to use it. So that'll be next Saturday here at the church. Okay, now to our friends and members on Zoom participating with us this morning, thank you for your patience this morning. It's always wonderful to have you, so I want to give you an opportunity to say hello this morning and anything else that you might want to share with us.
Sure. Well, thank you, Todd. Well, as you can see, I think there are 12 of us here, and we're, as always, thrilled to be able to come to this service. I was saddened to hear about John Jacob, and especially because for Canadians, this is our third National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. That's my orange T-shirt, which you can't see the logo on, but we're thinking back to the past, to the way we as a society have treated our First Nations citizens, and also looking at the future and the kind of health and educational services that are available here. So, what I really wanted to invite all the congregational members is to join us next Thursday evening. We're having a special Zoom class on our discussion group on climate change, and what we're focusing by watching two videos by Reverend Michael Dowd, who is an itinerant minister who spent about the last 8 or 9 years looking at climate change issues, and he provides a very stimulating, some might have thought depressing, first evening last week, but this week or this Thursday we are meeting again. And one of the other reasons, besides the urgency of climate change for this two evening event, was to get to know the people at the Spokane congregation. In the past year, as Zoomers, as I see it even on the screen, I look and I have met very few of these people face to face, but I do know the kind of things that they say and what they dress and look like, and developing friendships with people. So we know there's some really interesting people in Spokane as well, and we wanted to allow you to get to know us and vice versa. So that is at 4:30 your time on Thursday evening. The Zoom address is in the Sun newsletter, and we hope some of you will join us, as well as those on Zoom here too. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all very much for being here. As always, it's great to have all of you. In order for me to look at you, I have to look away from you, so you're behind me, but I got a peek at the screen, and you're a great looking bunch always. It's so great to have you as part of our first service. So thanks for being here. Thanks for all you're doing to help create community and provide meaningful events and meaningful connections for people, whether they meet on Zoom or stream or are here in person most of the time. It's really wonderful to find ways for us to connect as one community. So thank you, Terry, and thanks to all of you for helping with that. Okay. That was a lot for this morning's opening, but all important stuff. But I do want to take a moment for something that is equally as important, and that is to take a few seconds or a few minutes maybe to greet one another this morning. Start Okay, thank you. More opportunity to visit during our social hour following the service. And by the way, for our guests, there's coffee and tea behind that wall there. We keep it a secret unless we really like you, but you seem like a likable fellow, so so please stay around for that. But let's move forward now by lighting our chalice, which is the symbol of our unity and our solidarity, of our openness and our inclusion, of our community and our individual uniqueness. May this small flame be our offering of warmth to those who are cold and alone, and a light to those in darkness. May it be a flame that ignites justice in our world and a beacon of hope to those in need, and may it reflect at least a spark of truth wherever truth has been lost, and cast a healthy shadow of doubt wherever it's been found.
My opening reflection this morning is from one of my favorite books called Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. Imagine that everyone you know and everyone you meet is perfectly enlightened. That is, everyone except you. The people you meet are all here to teach you something. The obnoxious driver or the disrespectful teenager is here to teach you about patience. The punk rocker might be here to teach you to be less judgmental. Your job is to try to determine what the people in your life are trying to teach you. And if you do this, you'll be far less annoyed, bothered, and frustrated by the action and imperfections of other people. Often, once you discover what someone is trying to teach you, it's easy to let go of your frustrations. When stuck in a line waiting while someone appears to be moving slow or taking their time, ask yourself the question, what is he trying to teach me? Compassion if his job is not easy or one that would be hard to like? Patience? You may be surprised at how fun and easy this is. And all you're really doing is changing your perception from why are they doing this to what are they trying to teach me? Take a look around today at all the enlightened people.
Please stand. Join me for Filled with Loving Kindness, number 1031.
We are now going to kindle our candles of care for those who are most on our hearts and minds this morning. And we'll begin, as we have been, on behalf of the people of Ukraine and that region of the world that are being impacted by the violence there, as well as people all over the world who are being devastated by acts of violence, but also violent weather and violent climate and lots of things that are happening to really make a mess of people's lives these days. And of course, a candle for Jacob Johns and his recovery and his family, and Bernie Dutont and her entire family as well, who are grieving Al. And I would like to just, I failed to mention at the start of the service, that, of course, I was gone for the past 2 weeks. I don't know how many of you noticed. But you had some excellent services and speakers while I was away, including Paul Lindholt's excellent talk last week. One of the things I did while I was off was go down to Alabama and speak at the congregation there in Florence. It's another UUCS, the UU Congregation of the Shoals. And the second time I had the opportunity to be with those folks, and they're just delightful. And it was a joy to be able to be with them and to be with the sort of Unitarian Universalists we're accustomed to being around, very open-minded, intelligent, kind-hearted, fun-loving people. So they send their greetings, and I exchanged yours with them while I was there. So let's take a moment now of silence on behalf of others that you might be thinking of, and as always, you're welcome to name them aloud at this time if you'd like. Those named aloud and those embraced in our silence, and all those who are suffering in our world at this hour, we hold in our community with compassion. And as I mentioned, we are having a special collection this morning on behalf of Jacob Johns that will go to help, with his medical expenses or anything else, any other expenses he might have at this time that he needs help with. So appreciate your love and your generosity in advance. Again, feel free to use the special collection envelope if you have it. Just make a notation of it if you donate online. So we now gratefully give and receive this morning's offering, which helps sustain this community and our mission to the larger world.
Trouble in mind, I'm blue.
Thank you, Madeline. I wish there was a way we could reorder the service to where Madeline doesn't sing right before I have to get up.
You do just fine.
Thank you, thank you. So this is time for our story for all ages. We don't generally have children here at our first service, obviously, but we have lots of adult children. So, as usual, when I do the story for all ages, I like to bring a friend to help, and let's see who has come to visit us this morning. Let's see, who is this? Well, take a guess. Okay, you see you have a goofy hat. Yep, just don't let it go to my head. Okay, well, you're wearing goofy colors, which proves I'm not a figment of your imagination. Okay, you're full of puns today. And you've got goofy hands. Yep, 4 fingers. I can count all the way to 8. Wonderful. So you must be goofy. How'd you guess? Yeah, well, let's see. Let me see what my script says. Actually, I knew you were goofy all along. I'm the one who's goofy now. You're one of my favorite Disney characters. Well, golly gee, you're one of my favorite Disney characters too. Well, I'm not a Disney character, but I thank you anyway. Well, you're some kind of character. Yes, I am, so I'm told. But since you're here, I've always wondered a couple things about you, Goofy. Well, that makes 2 of us. Yeah, well, I hope you don't mind me asking. That still makes 2 of us. Are you a cow or a dog? Neither. I'm Goofy. Okay, well, that I guess is really the point of my question and my dancing script. Would you please keep your feet off of the pulpit? Oh, I'll try. So today we're going to be talking about tolerance. Well, they are pretty short, aren't they? What's that? Ants, those tiny little critters. No, I didn't say tolerance. I said tolerance. I mean being kind and respectful towards others who might think or look a little differently than us. Like an ant tall enough to play basketball? Well, forget about ants. I'm really talking about you, Goofy. I told you I'm not a cow or a dog or an ant. I'm just Goofy. Yes, that's what I mean. Do you ever mind being called Goofy? Well, heck no, that's my name. What else would I be called? Yeah, but I mean, it's kind of an insulting name, isn't it? Nope, it's a goofy name. Okay, you're not ever offended by people calling you Goofy? Yep, I wear goofy clothes, don't I? Yeah, you do. And I sound goofy, don't I? Yes, you do sound a bit goofy, I'd agree with that. And I look goofy, don't I? Well, if you don't mind me saying so, yes, you do look goofy. And everything I do is goofy, right? No doubt about that. Well, then I'm goofy, through and through. You know, I guess that's really what I love about you and why you're my favorite character. Disney character, I should say, Goofy. 9-2. Why is that? Well, because you don't mind being yourself, even if you are goofy. In fact, you love being goofy, and that's what makes you unique and why we all love you. Well, golly gee, I better not let that go to my head either. Then I'd have no place to put my hat. Well, that's true. So what's up now? Well, I guess I better get going. Okay, you have somewhere else to go to? I sure do. What you gonna do? I'm gonna go goof off. Thank you, Goofy. Proving that even goofy people are welcome here at the Unitarian Universalist Church. Thank goodness.
I invite you into a time of meditation. Adjust your position so you're comfortable. Close your eyes if you wish. Put your feet on the floor. Relax with a slow, deep breath and reflect on these words. The way of the universe is to fill that which is empty and to empty that which is full. When we're full, nothing else can enter. But when we're empty, all things can come to us.
When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we'll see, no, I won't be afraid, no, I won't be afraid, just as long as you stand by me. So darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, now stand by me. Oh, stand by me, stand by me. If the sky that we look upon should tumble and fall, and the mountain should crumble to the sea, I won't cry, oh, I won't cry, no, I won't shed a tear, just as long as you stand by me. So darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand now. Stand by me. Stand by me. So darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Stand by me. Whenever you're in trouble, won't you stand by me? Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand now. Stand by me, stand by me.
Thank you. very much. And Maura, thank you for your excellent accompaniment, as always.
Thank you.
Whatever happened leading to the terrible violence against our church member Jacob Johns this week, leaving him in, again, critical condition, needing to undergo multiple surgeries, I'm certain that it was an act of extreme intolerance on the part of the angry young man who shot him. And I could not have foreseen that something like this would happen to one of our own members when I planned to give this sermon a month ago. But this kind of gun violence, which has been routine in U.S. society for far too long, due to the extreme negligence of the Republican Party, that's not partisan, that's just a fact, and the partisan Supreme Court, that is partisan, but also a fact. Such overt instances of intolerance can happen anywhere in the nations these days at almost any time, and will continue to do so until there is a renewed commitment to this most important of all societal necessities, tolerance. It's hard to have even a modicum of hope that such a renaissance might occur given all the hate and the division in our society today. Yet, I think most people do value this principle and want a more tolerant and peaceful world. For example, I'm sure you're familiar with the coexist bumper sticker that's spelled out by a variety of different religious symbols. The C is the Islamic crescent moon, the P is the peace sign, the E is the equality symbol, the X is the Star of David, the I representing individuality is dotted with the Wiccan pentacle, the S is the Taoist Yang mandala, and the T is the Christian cross. Since 2000, when it was developed by a graphic designer in Poland, as part of an international contest organized by the Museum of Seam for Dialogue, Understanding, and Coexistence, located in Jerusalem, Coexist has become the most popular and familiar bumper sticker in the world, surpassing the popularity of Baby on Board, and My Child is an Honor Student at Name of School, bumper stickers that were most popular in the 1980s and 1990s. And that's saying something. That in addition to loving our kids, most of us want to promote living peacefully with others, no matter how different we are. Coexist. But on the other hand, Peggy and I saw a bumper sticker just the other day that looked almost identical to the Coexist decal, but instead, the various symbols were used to spell out convert. At the bottom in smaller print was a quote from the Gospel of John, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh to the Father but by me." I don't know the intentions of the vehicle's driver, who may consider it a funny and clever way to express pride in his or her own faith. But to me, it was a statement reflective of self-righteousness and the intolerance that comes along with it. Hopefully, we won't be seeing many of these bumper stickers on the roads. But this example does help make the point that I want to address, that tolerance is not a value everyone shares. And considering the state of the world these days, it appears those of us who do often find it easier to put on the back of our cars than to put into practice. Surely there are many behaviors that we cannot tolerate, which is why we have laws. But speech, beliefs, and books, and public demonstrations should not be among the things that we won't tolerate. Especially not in a society that tolerates civilians owning weapons of mass destruction. Yet increasingly it is the free flow of ideas that is forbidden, even as the shootings and killings are allowed to continue on a daily basis as a basic American right. Some might say that I'm intolerant of Republicans for saying these things. I'm not. I have many friends who are Republicans. But I do agree with many, I do not agree with many of the GOP's positions, including those that prevent us from doing anything meaningful to prevent mass murder and global warming, two of the deadliest matters in the world. Saying so doesn't make me intolerant. It is part of the important dialogue that must be allowed in a sane and functional society. We need to be able to debate these things. Saying things people disagree with doesn't make us intolerant. Not allowing us to say things people disagree with is what makes them intolerant. Those who think tolerance means keeping our mouths shut just to keep the peace or so that we don't upset those who disagree with us are enabling the behavior, not tolerating it. Toleration is not masochism. Today, institutions on the left, those once devoted to promoting tolerant societies based upon the truth of our universal and common humanity, the inherent worth and dignity of every person, have become intolerant of anyone who says anything they disagree with and rush to destroy their characters and their careers and to discredit and silence them. Whether it is Fox News or MSNBC using traditional media or the masses turning to social media, the tools of intolerance used to demonize and displatform ideological opponents are widely used on both the right and the left these days. Rather than engaging in dialogue, by tolerating and thus entertaining the potential value of the ideas that are not our own, we draw deep lines in the sand and isolate ourselves into echo chambers before they can ever get to us. In politics, it's particularly rare to see any hint of tolerance from the opposition party. It is more usual to seize the slightest opportunity to take advantage of any gaffe, any stumble an opponent makes, or to intentionally misrepresent or misconstrue what an opponent says, or to blow the importance of their mistakes far out of proportion, turning them into apocalyptic crimes. Today, for example, I regularly hear people say that President Biden is obviously senile, incoherent, and incompetent, as proven by brief sound bites in which he stutters or stumbles, or video of him staring blankly into space for a few seconds. I can tell you, if anyone follows me around with a camera all day, there will be plenty of opportunity to portray me in such light too. And I suspect that's true for most of us. Yet I also hear his longer speeches, his press conferences, and his interviews in which he sounds perfectly present and rational. Contrast this with the president's own response to those disturbing videos most of us saw of Senator Mitch McConnell in recent weeks becoming unresponsive during two separate press conferences following a serious head injury. This would have been the perfect opportunity for Biden to counterpunch and take advantage of his most powerful opponent. Instead, I was almost moved to tears by the refreshing response he gave when asked for his comments on the matter during an August 30th press conference. He said, "I just heard, literally coming out here, and Mitch is a friend, as you know, not a joke. I know people don't believe that's the case when we have disagreements politically, but he's a good friend. So I'm going to try to get in touch with him later this afternoon. I don't know enough now to know." A couple days later, he was asked if he'd had the chance to speak to Mitch McConnell. "Yes, I have," he said. "I spoke to Mitch, and he's a friend, and I spoke to him today. And you know, he was his old self on the telephone. And having a little understanding of dealing with neurosurgeons, and one of the leading women in my staff, her husband is a neurosurgeon as well, it's not at all unusual to have a response that sometimes happens to Mitch when you've had a severe concussion. It's part of the recovery. And so I'm confident he's going to be back to his old self. Then when asked if he had any concerns about McConnell's ability to do his job, Biden said resoundingly, "No, I don't." To me, the president's presidential response is a sign of his sanity, not his senility. If only his opponents would show an inkling of such respect for his inherent worth and dignity. More importantly, if only more of us would show the same respect, this same degree of tolerance toward those with whom we disagree. Coexist doesn't merely belong on the back of our cars where it's meant for others to see. We need to keep it in front of ourselves to continually remind us of how central this principle is in a peaceful, civil, and productive society. So let's take a little time to understand this value so that so many of us now believe in, aspire toward, or at the very least want to remind others of. Tolerance is one of the core ideas, the core values that emerged during the Renaissance in reaction against church orthodoxy and its brutal enforcement. A value that would soon become indicative of Enlightenment liberalism, definitive of Enlightenment liberalism. Prior to this, the idea of tolerating different ideas was considered unthinkable. As historian Richie Robertson says in his 2021 book on the Enlightenment, through many centuries, intolerance seemed a virtue. Let me repeat that. Through many centuries, intolerance seemed a virtue. It was no kindness to indulge people in error that would condemn them to damnation. The notion of tolerance was initially so offensive that its mere mention could get a person in hot water, literally during the medieval times. Toleration was seen as traitorous. In some cases, it still is. At the time, Christendom had been torn apart by the Reformation, which had led to all kinds of religious wars and cruelties. There was much animosity, so much animosity between religious sects, and the various sects were terrified of outsiders. The 17th century Anglican preacher Edward Stillingfleet likened tolerance to a Trojan horse, which brings in our enemies without being seen. Right? You cannot tolerate outsiders. You cannot tolerate people with different beliefs. Additionally, Robertson says toleration was also considered wrong. Toleration was considered wrong in principle, as it implied indifference to divine truth and disregard for ecclesiastical authority. This, I imagine, is the sentiment behind the convert bumper sticker I previously mentioned. Back then, preventing violence and conflict depended on orthodoxy, not heterodoxy. It depended upon groupthink and intolerance. Tolerance was considered an obvious evil that only fools and wicked people would want. How on earth can we possibly get along if we're not all on the same page? Yet after a century of brutal war and conflict between the Catholics and the Protestants, and between the Protestants and the Protestants, leaving tens to hundreds of thousands dead and to the ruin of their homes and their lands, it became obvious forcing everyone to believe the same thing was not going to be possible. By the onset of the Enlightenment, Robertson says, it was increasingly felt that ways must be found for adherents of different religions to live together, if not harmoniously, then at least without open conflict. Even so, it would take hundreds of years before the idea of tolerance, for the idea of tolerance to become what it means for us today, namely that we should treat everyone with respect no matter our differences, and that we should all enjoy the same rights and privileges despite our differences. At first, toleration may have been granted to certain groups, meaning that they would not be killed, but it also meant that their ideas and their ways were not approved of by the majority. Kind of the way we treated gays in our modern society until only recently, right? Don't ask, don't tell. Those of marginal faiths were tolerated by the authorities, but they didn't have the same freedoms as everyone else. That was not part of the definition. A 1598 French law, for example, where Catholics dominated, granted Protestants freedom, but also required them to observe Catholic holidays, obey Catholic laws regarding marriage and contracts, and submit every book that they printed to censorship. Things only worsened from there. 24 years later, the French Protestants were no longer allowed to hold burials during the day, and they were no longer allowed to have government representatives. Marriage between Protestants and Catholics became illegal. Protestant women could not be midwives. Protestants could not practice law or medicine. And soldiers were sent to occupy their homes and communities. They weren't even free to immigrate elsewhere. And those who defied the bans had their belongings confiscated. That was tolerance. That was the tolerance that was adopted. Rather than kill them, we'll just oppress them. Tolerance to avoid the violence. Things were similar in the Dutch Republic, where the Dutch Reformed Church was the official religion. Other religions were tolerated, but toleration meant that Catholics, in this case, could not hold public office, nor build their own churches, but for a fee could hold their services in buildings that were not considered churches. Robertson says it was very limited liberty that allowed them to attend Mass only in private houses and usually under cover of darkness. Tolerance. Although the Dutch tolerated other religions to the same degree, they considered Socinianism, which you may know was the precursor to Unitarianism, as an intolerable heresy. So we couldn't have even been oppressed in their society. We couldn't have been raised to that level. Please don't kill us, just oppress us. Some years earlier, in 1553, Unitarianism's founder, Michael Servetus, was burned at the stake, the fire stoked by his own writings questioning Trinitarian doctrine. His martyrdom caused Unitarians to shun such tolerance from the religion's inception. It became so important to us that historian Earl Morse Wilbur summarized Unitarianism by its fundamental principles of freedom, reason, and tolerance, adding that the first and most essential of its three controlling principles is that of a generous tolerance in differing views. That's how we were born. This is why after Hungarian King John Sigismund Zapolya became a Unitarian, his first act was to pass the first religious toleration act in history, the Edict of Torda, in 1568, ahead of its time. Rather than commanding that all his subjects become Unitarian like their king, the edict stated that no one shall be reviled for his religion by anyone, and it is not permitted that anyone should threaten anyone else by imprisonment or by removal from his post for his teaching. 1568. Unfortunately, King Sigismund's progressive social experiment was short-lived due to his own accidental death, at which time the Catholics took over and immediately passed an anti-innovation law prohibiting any new ideas that hadn't already been expressed when the edict was still in place. It wouldn't be until the Enlightenment was in full force that this principle would again come to reflect the scope that Unitarianism gave it in the 16th century. Philosopher John Locke for example, began his 1689 essay, A Letter Concerning Toleration, saying, "I esteem that toleration to be the chief characteristic mark of the true church." I'm quite sure he didn't have a coexist bumper sticker on the back of his horse-drawn carriage, but its message is similar to Locke's belief that religions of all institutions ought to be defined by ideological tolerance. Those who only emphasize their own orthodox beliefs, Locke said, are simply striving for power and empire over one another, are destitute of charity, meekness, and goodwill, including for those who are not Christians, and thus fall short of being true Christians themselves, by his definition. I would be remiss not to point out that what he said then is true of many Unitarian Universalists whose postmodern orthodoxy has caused them to become authoritarian in recent years and destitute of charity, meekness, and goodwill toward those who do not share their perspectives. This broader understanding of tolerance was much better than that of the Renaissance Catholics and Protestants, but Robertson says arguments like it still assume that toleration is something undesirable, that it would still be better if everyone agreed about everything. It is not yet an argument, he says, against interfering with the sanctity of the individual conscience. What one misses above all in Locke's argument is a sense that there is anything morally wrong with intolerance, or a sense of any deep concern for the victims of persecution, or the moral insult that is involved in the attempt to manipulate their faith. That's not part of the definition of Locke's Enlightenment intolerance. See, it's yes, we should tolerate people with differences, but we haven't added that idea yet of them having the same rights and freedoms as everyone else. It would be another century before philosopher Immanuel Kant would renounce what he called the arrogant title of tolerance, precisely because it did not require us to advocate for the rights and freedoms of those we disagree with. For Kant, it isn't enough to merely tolerate those we disagree with. We must fully accept them as equals, as citizens, and hopefully as neighbors. Preachers and scholars should be free to continue publicly disagreeing when it comes to laws and governments. It is their task, Kant says, to leave everyone free to use one's own reason in all matters of conscience. That's the government's responsibility, to protect our rights. After Kant, the French Enlightenment philosopher Voltaire began campaigning against intolerance as immoral, saying it does not require any great art or studied elocution to prove that Christians ought to tolerate one another. Nay, I shall go still further and say that we ought to look upon all men as our brethren. How? Call a Turk, a Jew, and a Siamese my brother? Yes, doubtless. For are we not all children of the same parent and creatures of the same Creator? Hence, the concept of intolerance was finally completely flipped. It had initially been considered good and moral, and tolerance was the obvious evil. Then tolerance became a necessary evil, enabling us to keep the peace, so to speak, even if some were still discriminated against. Finally, tolerance becomes the obvious good and intolerance the obvious evil. At this point, Robertson says, the reluctance that is implied in tolerance has been dropped. Toleration has mutated into acceptance. This is what this cornerstone of our liberal religion, Unitarianism is supposed to mean for us, and what it has meant to Enlightenment liberals who fashioned our modern democracies. Hence, this broader and advanced understanding of tolerance is also what it ought to mean for us as North Americans, and hopefully Westerners, and anyone else. It doesn't mean that we have to agree with everyone, nor even like everyone, but it does mean we must live peacefully with them and allow them to enjoy the same freedoms and rights as we wish for ourselves. It even means we must fight for them to have those freedoms and those rights when necessary. It means treating them with dignity. Does this modern idea of tolerance raise the bar too high, or is it just high enough? Should we only refrain from killing each other while we go on hating each other? Or must we guarantee, protect, and value the rights and the dignity of those we disagree with? Do we convert or do we coexist? Which bumper sticker belongs on the back of our cars? Which value do we keep before us? I have a dear friend, Carl, who is a conservative Christian. We have very different religious and political beliefs, yet we delight in each other's company. When I struggle to understand these deeper questions of life, I turn to philosophy and psychology and science. Carl turns to theology, the Bible, and prayer. Yet in our own way, we arrive at the same place. Some time ago, Carl was bothered by non-believers, and he wanted to find a message of unity for them. So he prayed that night for guidance, or one night for guidance. Went to sleep, and awoke in the night with a statement in his head that he jumped out of bed to write down. I asked him to share it with me. Most all of whom you've condemned shall one day be with me in paradise. While they have chosen a different path to me than the one you've felt important for them to take, their hearts are just right. So replace your unauthorized judgments with the same love that I continue to share with you each day. For in such love there is no error, only good. Carl considers this a universalistic message to have come from the Holy Spirit. I would say it reflects a spirit of wholeness, of the unity that he was seeking. We may not all agree on a lot of things, but we share this same value, this same understanding of what tolerance is supposed to mean in a modern society. We cannot hate our way to the perfect world we want. Hate only guarantees we'll never get there, and that we'll get stuck in a perpetual cycle of incivility, violence, and stagnation, as well as potential suffering, loss, and grief. It is only through allowing, valuing, and protecting the freedom and rights of everyone, no matter how we may differ, to freely express their beliefs, that together human society can thrive. As Immanuel Kant once wrote, the public use of one's reason must always be free, and it alone can bring about the enlightenment among mankind. We need another enlightenment today, and it has to begin with tolerance. Thank you.
Please stand. We'll sing We shall overcome. It's not in your hymnal, but it'll be up there. You can. Oh, it is in your order service. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace. We shall live in the peace someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We shall all be free. We shall all be free. We shall all be free someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We are not afraid. We are not afraid. We are not afraid someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday.
As we close today, I want to share a poem called A Friend. There is no need for legal bonds, nor spoken word, nor ceremony of any kind. A friend does not condemn, does not seek retribution, nor point the finger of guilt. A friend does not degrade, but only praises and expects no rewards. A friend gives without asking and does not question. A friend supports without cause and does not judge. To have a friend is a blessing. To be a friend is divine love. Amen. Blessed be. Salam alaikum and shalom.